This is the Forward Echo Podcast, episode 2, and I'm your host, Ryan Snyder. What's up, guys? Happy New Year. I never know when it's, what the cutoff date is for saying Happy New Year. It still feels new to me. It's January 23rd. We're leaning into our third week here, so super pumped. It won't be January 23rd when this podcast comes out, but you get the point. It's still a new year, so that's great. And I hope that you're as stoked as I am as far as pouring into all the different buckets of my life and goals that I've set for this year. Really looking forward to rolling out some new things that we have planned, and also just kind of leaning into the adventure of what I have planned for myself on a personal side. I hope you're doing the same. Don't work too hard, but also don't not work either. So make sure you fit in some personal time to go out and do things. Excuse me, go do things that you really really want to do for yourself. To help cultivate that life resume outside of building a work resume. That's enough out of me for that. So really what I want to talk about in this episode is a little bit, more of like the origin story of what I do right now and kind of how that came about and where what that progression has looked like. So currently right now, I am a founder and creative director for an organization called Media Applications Group, also MAG for short. And our primary market that we serve are organizations and companies based in the defense, weapons, shooting, hunting, and outdoors sectors. And we provide a 3-tier service solution based strategy. So, 3-tier service offering. So that includes our brand identity services, brand strategy services, and then media solutions. And media solutions, obviously, the subsets of that are full scale media production and photography services. So pre-production, production, and post-production, all that glitz and glamour, to be able to put videos like this together, at a smaller and larger scale for everything from social media platforms to website. Really, the grand basis of all of this is we help brands and companies tell a better story in order to connect with their end user. So passionate about what I do. I'm super grateful with the individuals that I work with that are equally as passionate and very, very, very proficient at what they do. And it has just been a phenomenal learning experience in so many different pieces of this for, any of you who are, running a business in any caveat, whatever industry, you get it, you understand it. And for those who are just getting started into running their own business or thinking about running a business, the learning curve is steep and it is an adventure if you allow it to be, in kind of this self-discovery process as you learn, what to do to be a efficient business owner and freelancer and what not to do, But yeah, so before we get ahead of ourselves, so I want to talk a little bit about, what life has been and where I started as a button pusher, as the slang as they call it. I remember it was about 5-6 years ago, I picked up a camera. I was working as an intern at a prominent music recording studio in Atlanta, Bravo Ocean Studios. They're still around. Amazing work. Worked with a lot of major artists. So if you are in the music industry and you're looking for a place to record, you're based in Atlanta, maybe you're not, you're just looking to fly in Atlanta, go record, go hit him up. Hit up Nick. He's the man. But it was just a phenomenal experience. I went in initially as a marketing intern to learn a bit more about the music business. I was making music on my own at the time and, thought that's what I wanted to do at the time. I was really passionate about it, pursuing it, doing shows, writing music, recording, doing collaborations, all this great stuff. And then, somewhere in that instant, I was struggling with some other things outside of that with hard goods and alcohol. And that led to me getting to leaning into a life of sobriety, which we will definitely unpack at another later date, another podcast, but just giving you guys kind of like service level right now. And in that instant, when I was working at the studio, I was trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do next. I knew that music had been, an amazing experience and it had become more about the party than it had actually making music. So I was kind of looking to reset. And ironically, at that time, one of the owners of the studio, Nick, he asked if I could go out and shoot one of their partners, who's a musician who was going to be performing a show. I remember him telling me this, like, still lives in my head to this day. And I think it's one of the most prominent principles that I operate my life in with anything I pick up and go out and learn to do is that I figure it the fuck out, right? I figure it out. And he told me, he's like, hey, take this camera and go shoot our artists. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Literally says to me, he's like, figure it out. I'm like, okay, copy that. I'll figure it out. So, played around with the buttons, this and that. Watch a couple of videos on YouTube, but as well as I do, anything you try, you can watch as many videos as you want, read about it, but the ultimate like learning is going to happen like in the experience of doing that thing. So I remember just getting out there, had a blast, took a bunch of pictures. Looking back, it's just so cool to see the progression where you start and what you think like is amazing at the time. And then as you evolve into your craft, you recognize all of these things, these little uh, technical aspects of it that you recognize you didn't know that would just ultimately dramatically help you be a more effective storyteller or more effective in whatever role it is that you're currently, standing in right now. And I just fell in love with it. Like I had so much fun. And I remember just picking up the camera, like trying to shoot everything and everyone, like just looking to do collaborations with every person on Instagram. I started with, with females and leaning into like the whole modeling thing. At least that's what I thought I wanted to do. So I remember just like hitting up girls, sliding their DMs, like, hey, let's go shoot a photo. Like you're absolutely stunning. I would love to do some portraits of you. So running around Atlanta doing that. I was kind of bouncing in and out of like photo and video. And I remember having thought like, how does one decide like what they want to do? Like, how do you decide if you want to shoot pictures or if you want to shoot video? They're just such, completely two different worlds, in which they are. And, any photographer, videographer will tell you like, they both like one hates the other, it's like, or it's just not for them. And so I remember like battling that, feeling like I had to make a decision about what I was going to do with that. And, lo and behold, after 5-6 years, I can say honestly that I am way more into video. I love video. I love the dynamics behind it. I love how it allows a brand or yourself to tell a story. Pictures are great. It's a big part of our service solution offering with the media solutions side, but for myself personally, I love video. So anyways, that journey, I'd finished up kind of like doing a lot of like free work. I was like, all right, I need to get paid for this. Like if I'm going to make this hobby, like something as a side hustle while I'm working all these, kind of part-time jobs, like I'd like to make some money doing this. And I remember I just started leaning into like anything I could shoot with coffee brands, with collaborations. The first collaboration I got was with a backpack company, and I reached out to them on Instagram, and her name was Dee, and man, she was so cool. Her and her partner Wendy for Wanna Rome, they were like, yo, we love your energy. Like we would love to, have you come out and like rep our backpack and do some just like really great photos and video for us. That'd be cool. I was like, absolutely, like done deal, trade a backpack for photos and videos. Like, let's do it. I was pumped. I remember it showed up to my doorstep, first collaboration ever. And I was just freaking frothing, like absolutely frothing. Like, I can't believe this is like happening. Like someone sent me a backpack to shoot. Like, that's amazing. Just being paid and like bartering services. And it's cool to still have a relationship with them today. That was like like I said, years ago. And I remember just being so pumped, so grateful. So things like that kind of started happening, the whole constant, like reaching out on Instagram, reaching out to brands, and then eventually, finding a client. And, it just kind of snowballed. And all in that, I was trying to figure out like, my identity as a camera operator or as a business owner. Rather, I was a freelancer, but there's such a gap in what being a freelancer is and being a business owner is, right? And I think for a lot of us who are freelancers, like we lean more on when I was a freelancer, I leaned more into like the creative side of things and didn't really worry about like the strategy side of things in terms of scaling a business and, building systems and processes and workflows and things that these pillars, these foundational blocks that allow you to automate things within your business so that you can focus on what it is that you're doing. If that's, you want to be the button pusher, you want to be the camera guy, or if you want to, stand more to like managerial role and that just have guys go out and shoot on your behalf, all these things that you don't think about early on because you're just trying to get time exchanged for money, for shooting cool stuff that you want to shoot. But yeah, anyway, so long story short, that led me to where I'm at today. And what I've noticed today, like kind of how MAG or Media Applications Group came about is just seeing so many companies, like not only just inside the weapons industry, shooting, hunting, and outdoors, but just so many industries where a lot of brands struggle with this self-perception. They have this misalignment with market perception. How they either, and this is just some common things that I've seen, witnessed, experienced. They don't know who they are. They don't know, how they're perceived in the marketplace, and they don't know their target audience, right? They don't know who that is. All of these is undefined, and yet they're reaching out to content companies to have them create content to push a product with no clear landing zone, right? They don't know where they even want to go. And so for me, you know, I always strayed away from deals like that because it didn't feel integritous. It didn't feel ethical to take money to give someone content that that wasn't going to make an impact, right? I think one of the most crucial elements or components to creating media, if not the lifeline for media, is understanding who you are in the marketplace, and what your customers think of you. Knowing your customer, knowing your end user, that is a difference in being able to tell a story that resonates with your end user or a story that completely misses the mark. And if we're talking about this financially, that's the difference between, top line and bottom line numbers being profitable or not. And that's so crucial. It's such a crucial element to consider. So in that, identifying those gaps in the marketplace, my partners and I decided to formulate, this trifecta approach of really helping streamline brands and companies into really making a profound impact with the content that they push out and making sure it is well defined. They're well defined. They know who they are so that we can create content that aligns with that, therefore aligns with their customers' needs, and ultimately, places the product in their end users' hands, right? They see the value in it. They believe in the story. They're emotionally connected to the story. So that's how MAG came about in a nutshell. Some of our core principles that we operate in every day are professionalism, creativity, commitment, and innovation. And lastly, excellence. Everything that we do when we approach our client or when no one is looking is rested in those 5 laurels, those 5 principles, from being professional, how the conversation is had, the first interaction, whether that's a phone call, a handshake, an email, always looking out for the vested interest in our clients, being transparent up front, handling tough conversations as a professional, whether if they're not stoked about the content or if the client could be difficult in terms of always, maybe changing their mind a lot because they're not clear on who they are. I believe showing up as a professional, right down to the way that you organize all your camera gear and show up on site and put it together, and having these processes in place. Like, you want to be taken seriously with any client in any capacity. You have to be professional in everything that you do, how you talk and how you walk. Do your feet match your mouth? And does the way that you operate, as a camera operator or as a founder, a creative director, any role, are you a professional in all the sense? Can you handle the heat when it kicks up? When things are falling apart on set or the weather's not working out, or, the structure of the shoot's changing around because certain people aren't on time. It's important to handle that with grace and to also, show up as a professional, because that's what clients want to see is someone they can trust. And that starts with the first interaction. Do they trust you? And if they don't, I promise you that relationship is not something that will be sustainable, or it'll fall apart pretty quickly, or you just won't even get the opportunity to work with the individual. It comes to creativity. I love just watching commercials from some of the bigger advert companies or marketing agencies that they've put together with these incredible teams and this just incredible history of just putting out hard hitting content that really speaks to the genetic DNA of brands and companies. So for us, by looking at what competitors in our space are doing, and even just any other space, doesn't even have to be inside media or branding or marketing, but just looking at how companies are continually, pushing the creative limits for how they tell their story, is a way that we draw inspiration into what we do. And also drawing in from the people I work with, how do they think? What goes on their mind? What visions do they have? What references do they appreciate from other content that's been released? Same with the client. Like, where's the client's head at? The creativity is it's such this amazing element that it's interesting. I think so many people talk about, I'm just not feeling inspired to feel creative. I think to feel creative, you don't sit around and wait for it to happen. Creativity happens with intentionally creating things. And in that, you find inspiration for creating something out of that. Not everything you create is going to be great, and that's okay. That's part of the creative process. But just making sure you're always doing something to stay creative and finding that ability to tell a story or just in any capacity. Like, how can you creatively put together an email that's going to resonate with a client? What kind of research are you doing? Intelligence gathering or data gathering, really, in terms of like studying your competition, studying what other successful people in your space are doing. That all is in the same vein of what it takes to be creative in how you find new deals, creative in terms of how you execute those deals, and creative in terms of how you follow up on those deals after you've had a successful run with a client. Like, how do you nurture that relationship? How are you creative about that? Do you send a video note on your phone that says, hey, pleasure working with you, thinking of you today because we did this shoot and it reminds us of something that happened on set? Really like nurturing that relationship, assuming like that's what your business allows you to do. If you're a bigger operation, I don't know, but for my own experience, like, everything is very handheld in my company. So I have personal relationships with all of my clients, and it's a really special thing. Um, Commitment, being committed. You say you're going to do something, you better do it. That is absolutely important. Following through no matter what. The job's not done till the job's done. That is a core principle, a core tenet of ours. And I expect nothing less, as so does our client. Innovation. Innovation is a favorite of mine because there's so much. I think it's kind of in the same vein as creativity. How do we innovate what we're doing and make it better? How do we streamline it? How do we improve our automation? How do we improve just overall, individually, collectively as a team? And also, all the great technologies that are evolving, the ever evolving landscape of technology with camera gear and audio equipment and lighting. I mean, it's so fascinating. It's hard to keep up with. So that's always something I'm doing research into, is to, what's the latest and greatest. Now, I will heed warning to those who are in the creative space with cameras. You don't have to have the best equipment to go out there and get a job done. For myself right now, what camera I'm filming this on and what I use 95% of the time with my clients? A Sony A7 III. A Sony A7 III. I've had this body for 3.5, 4 years, and I've got two lenses I like to lean into: the 1635 G Master and the 2470 G Master. I have been oscillating back and forth between both those lenses because I believe that's all you need to get the job done. And I'm not saying just a job done. I mean a quality, excellent job that clients will be happy with when it comes to media capture. That is something that I never allowed myself to get lost in, was the whole approach of, oh my gosh, if we don't have the best equipment, we're not going to be able to do this. We're not going to stand out. And now I will say, like, where I'm at now, where we're at now, that is something that is shifting right now in terms of leaning into some newer operating devices to make sure that we're able to push it harder with coloring. I mean, that's something that you will notice in the difference between getting a standard base body of any camera to something more high end cinema grade. You're having that dynamic range, which is going to allow you to really push the coloring, take in basically more data to be able to create something that's more true or more creative in terms of your color space. But not to get too technical on this podcast, but at least this episode in particular, the point of this being just innovate and iterate. What can you do with what you have, and how do you make the most of that? And then lastly, excellence. That wasn't very excellent of me to stutter over that, but excellence. Take pride. We take pride in everything every day. And I think that for me, excellence starts with the moment that I wake up. How do I structure out my day? What does my routine look like? How consistent am I in that? Am I doing things that I don't feel like doing anyways? Staying disciplined. I believe excellence is a byproduct of discipline. It's a byproduct of consistency. It's a byproduct of commitment. When you have those three principles in place, they create this byproduct of being excellent in everything you do. And it's not perfect. There's a huge difference. We're going to make mistakes, but what do we do with those mistakes? How do we iterate those mistakes? How do we make them better? What did we do ineffectively? What did we do effectively? And what can we keep doing? How can we keep improving? Having those after action reports are so crucial to be able to create this ecosystem of effective steps and workflow processes to create a product that is nothing less than excellent. That is something that I take pride in, and that I always expect the people that I work with to take pride in as well. Not only just excellence, but all of our core principles. Um, yeah. So just thinking about, MAG, something I probably should have mentioned. MAG came about actually about late last year, or rather early last year. Forgot it's 2024. So I had an opportunity in 22 to work with a friend of mine who brought me out on a shoot, to work with a company called Gladius International, and they are a private protection agency that provides assets for high net worth individuals, and they also provided a retail solution center. So they had an army where they sold, weapons, rifles, handguns, tactical equipment, everything that you would need for a range day. And then also just for the regular gun enthusiasts. And then they also had training classes as well, training iteration. So they bring varied professionals in the field, former ex-military SOF assets who would come in and train the average everyday civilian. You could sign up for the class, so you could do warfighter concepts course. You could do a handgun course, rifle course, practicing everything from basic gun safety to more advanced maneuvering, shoot and move drills. And it was just such an amazing freaking thing that they had going on. There's some changes now, but just pivoting a little bit in the space, but irrelevant. Anyways, what is really cool is this experience that they cultivated. So they were looking to do a full rebrand, and I had this individual call me up to shoot as a assistant, second shooter, third shooter. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. As a result of that work, that turned into something even better. Ended up having an opportunity to work with them more on some more videos and do some more like brand oriented content to align with their brand strategy that they had. And, that was really like the launching point for MAG is having that opportunity to work with Gladius. And I think one of the like biggest things I recently wrote about this on LinkedIn was, the biggest return on that for me, it wasn't monetary. It wasn't the opportunity to find out this passion of mine and create a business oriented towards that space. It was the relationships that I've gotten out of it. Undebatably, undebatable, the camaraderie. A few of these individuals are actively my business partners today, and they're also people that I can call on, at the drop of the hat. People that I share, personal time with outside of work. It's just symbiotic relationship, and it's just, I think that's like one of the most special things that I've gotten out of doing what I love doing, is just really working with really amazing people that teach you amazing things, that push you to be better, push you to show up as your best in every capacity, because you see that's exactly what they're doing. And it's something that I could never have imagined happening. For those of you who are just starting with your business, like, keep an open mind, focus on what matters. And that's giving a dang about people, giving a dang about, what they're doing and how you can help them and how you can drive value for them. I think that's what naturally transpired these relationships, because I cared so much about, their company. I cared about them as people. I cared about their successes. And in turn, it felt it was mutual. I had the same, I believe that the same wants for me is to be successful. And I've seen that, I've experienced that. So I think that's how MAG came about, just naturally from that first iteration of working in getting a taste of working in the defense industry, weapons industry. And from there, I've always had a passion and respect for the military, for our servicemen and women, for the ultimate sacrifice for those that have made that. It's something that many of us, myself included, we will never be able to comprehend what that is like, what that looks like. And I feel like my opportunity to contribute to that sector, to contribute to those men and women, is being a part of companies like Gladius or, Warrior's Choice, leaning into these guys to help them drive their mission forward and make an impact because of what they've done for us. And it's just, it's a really special thing. I guess that's my word today is special. I'm grateful for it. So if you're, leaning into content or just any business, just, I guess my suggested advice would be to, really value who you're working with and lean into that, see how you can be of service before self. How can you help them? Find out what problems they're having and then insert a solution and help them get there. So that's kind of the origin story of, Media Applications Group as you know it and where we started. Um, if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, concerns, whatever you want to drop a line, feel free to shoot me an email. It's on there. It's in the link below, and or shoot us a DM, whatever. Open to topics, open to guest suggestions. Like I said, we will be having guests on sooner than later, but stand by on that. So I'm looking forward to bringing some of these people I've mentioned on the podcast, as well as other individuals I haven't had a chance to talk about yet. So looking forward to kind of sharing their knowledge transfer with you guys and their experience and what they do and why they're so damn good at it. So thanks so much for tuning in on this podcast, guys. January 23rd, you still got pretty much the whole year to go out and crush it. So just wishing you guys the best of luck to stay focused, stay zeroed in, and get after it.